Walk around my days thinking a lot of tough guy stuff. Like sizing people up. Checking dudes out for cauliflower ear. I'm somewhat of a martial arts type. I've done BJJ for 15 some years. I've been bit by close friends on a couple separate occasions. Like to the point of drawing blood and leaving a mouth-shaped bruise. When my one friend bit me, I had to hide the mark on my leg for a whole summer. If my jiu-jitsu coach saw the bite mark on the back of my calf, he would know the truth that I had armbared someone and they bit me in defense. Some people learn these things in self-defense classes or in martial arts books. Those are good resources, but nothing solidifies the learning process like a good bite. Maybe that's part of the sizing people up all the time. Even my closest friends have bit me for one reason or another. While having been on the receiving end, I don't feel like I have it in me to bite someone else. I feel like I'm safe and I want everyone around me safe. But if threatened, I'm confident that through whatever struggle I will keep breathing. I just think sport fighting is neat. I understand it's sport. It's for fun. Real violence is like killing people in war, which I've very thankfully never had to do. Again, I don't know what it would take for me to bite someone. Even to bite someone back. I've taken a few punches to the face, not understanding why, and my initial instinct is to forgive and apologize. But that in mind, I'm not too afraid of like one guy. Unarmed on a nice surface, I don't want to get in a tussle bare fist with a stranger at the grocery store, but we could go. I might get hurt. I don't want to, but I could roll the dice at any time. And while I size up the other men at the grocery store in this ideal, pristine reality where I could just drop my shopping basket and attack people, I don't really consider what they think of me. I just have a feeling that other so-called tough guys might see me and think absolutely nothing of me. I have no tattoos, little cauliflower, few scars. I try to be approachable and nice to people I meet. Even when I hang out with jiu-jitsu students outside of the gym, there is no pecking order. We are just all friends if there is a pecking order. Something else defines it, like money or sex or something else I don't always understand, and I'm on the bottom rung. Would it be cool to get into a street fight where I'm totally in the right, considered a hero? Even, I don't know anymore. Younger me would have said yeah. I think younger me was more capable of rolling the dice at the grocery store. One time when I was trying to walk into the grocery store, I was distracted and alarmed as heard a man and woman yelling at each other. I didn't know what was going on between them, but the guy was screaming at her, like really loud, right in her face. It was terrifying to me to even think back about. But as I walked in the store, I heard this going on behind me and stopped and kinda paused. What if he hits her? Should I then step in and throw him on his head? Will I get stabbed or shot or thrown on my head? I simply stopped and turned around. I tell myself I know better than to fight a stranger in a parking lot, but what if he actually hit her or something? I took a couple paces in the direction of them, clearly looking right at them, just in a way to advertise I was present, and I just watched them yelling for a little longer. There's someone close that sees what's happening, and you, my friend, are going to be in another situation that might change your life. I'm not scared of your yelling or your attempts to fight me, or really even if you have a gun. I was only scared that he'd hit the girl. I figured that was the point of no return that I chose. So after a few moments of staring at them, luckily the dude noticed me watching and lowered his voice. I mean, it was real close. To this dude hitting her, I've thankful never seen anything else like it in public. It's just horrible knowing she might be stuck with this asshole. I didn't think I would consider putting my life on the line for a complete stranger. Again, I can take a hit, but I don't know if I would even fight to protect myself. But apparently a guy hitting a girl is a line. He probably hit her later, anyway, behind closed doors when there's no one watching who could help. Maybe I should have just attacked that guy on principle. He was clearly abusive, doubtfully an isolated incident. Maybe I literally dodged a bullet by not getting involved. A younger me might have done it. I used to fantasize about such an encounter. Breaking both of the bad guy's arms, shit like that. I imagined that the worst place for someone to cross a line, like while I was witness, would be at the airport. Like if someone puts hands on someone else in a bad way. And it kinda terrifies me when I travel. There are potential public flip-out videos left and right. I always try to mind my own business, but so often while traveling I see people acting out of hand and mean. Again, it's none of my business. It's just that I see things of people acting mean to strangers in these moments, if not outright abusive. I feel like some of these shitheads forgot that they aren't packing heat at the moment. Maybe your sovereign citizen has got mean at the wrong airport. 'Cause I know you don't have shit on you. We are both just unarmed, like we are wearing GIS now. Yeah. Probably a felony if there's no real reason for it. Almost certainly on the no-fly list. But give some unstable fucker that fights the reason to get away with it, an OOF. I probably don't like such a person for a lot of reasons other than their current actions. I'm assuming they are a douche everywhere they go. If you are willing to be evil in the presence of a bunch of stranger, woof. Giddy up. The first invention, fire, was great too. Keep your village warm at night. It's also great to burn down your neighbor's village. This is why the aliens won't stop by to say hello to us. How could they? We have not proved ourselves responsible enough. Maybe that's fair. Having just emerged from Darwin's pool, what would we do but survive and replicate at all costs? Threats to that must be squashed. We aren't a stable planet. We are not ready for a relationship with someone else. In almost every Hollywood depiction of ET, we are immediately with war with them. In reality, they must be a planet of Buddhas, self-explorers. To boldly go might be the fantasy of a child civilization. We will probably have to learn to just look from afar or leave it to our imagination as we consider actually exploring the galaxy. We will realize it's just not conceivable. Would an ancient civilization of Buddhas really be searching the stars for us? They would have little to gain, more to lose. It would be an accident or serendipity if we ever caught a glimpse of them. If they would search us out to kill us, it just seems off the mark. I feel like all we even have that is special we don't yet understand. How could they take it from us? Or take it from us dead nonetheless? What more would they want then? To observe us? Maybe if we made a good AI or something scary that we could cause to get out of control, then I could see them squishing us. But honestly, I feel like it would have been done by now. They could just flick a rock at us. That's all it would take. We few people are stuck to this tiny bit of Earth. If they made it here, they could certainly observe and foresee we were getting too dangerous. That or ET, time traveler, dimension sifters are not possible because this as we see it would be over. It's time, not distance of space, that separates the stars. I love my friend who will feel targeted by this, but you can't smoke joints with people who barely smoke. If you don't know how to roll a joint, don't hit one. If you have never been interested or drawn to weed enough to start rolling your own joints, you may lack the understanding of how to hit it correctly and you will ruin how it burns. You may lack the feel of when to even alarm the person that rolled it it may run or canoe, and that the person who rolled it should take a look. I'll be fair. If you find yourself in a new field, such as that of rolling and smoking joints, act confidently. Go forward not afraid but ready to adapt to what you find wrong or amiss. Accept that this is the nature of learning and that others will be understanding with you. That is as long as you take this time to accommodate new ideas and feelings and confront the uncomfortable. If you are smoking a joint someone else rolled and after you hit it it is somehow ruined, could find fault in others or take a look at yourself and say, that was me, I should finally learn how to roll joints. Problem is, I can't teach you how to roll a joint. I can't teach you anything. I can encourage you to figure it out, but that is where my relationship to you as a student ends. Maybe you thought someone was gonna hug you from behind, hold your hands in theirs and guide you through how to roll a joint, like the pottery scene from Ghost. But that is not how learning is going to work. It's on you. The fact that I've let you ruin countless joints says enough about my understanding, nature and tolerance on this matter. At some point you will encounter a mirror, and you will recognize the person reflecting is a boy in that you felt like you were a man, but what looks back at you is an unprepared, uninitiated, reckless denier of fault and objector of personal responsibility in all matters that concern anyone outside of you. When you do find that mirror and see that little boy, maybe you will then appreciate that we have been waiting for you. We have been waiting for you to learn to roll joints. You are ready. You are here now. It seems likely that there will be a cataclysmic event will one day or another befall humanity. We need solid solutions to get off Earth and hedge our bet. Consider that humans are tool makers, not just tool users, and that is what has made us great. Now back to getting off Earth. It is very hard to shoot stuff off the planet in a rocket, and a more creative solutions have yet to be devised. We need robots to be our tool makers. Putting fragile humans in space should only be an all-costs attempt to colonize, nothing less. It's too hard to keep fools in space, and it's too easy to lose motivation and funding if there are human costs. Live humans, and possibly our dogs, will be the last step in exploring space. We first need robots to harvest the asteroids and make more robots. Tools need to be made off Earth with self-sustaining automated robots. Once a robot is designed that it can exceed the cost of getting off Earth with its value of output in outer space, the robotic acceleration should be fast. They can get space colonies and the Moon and Mars ready for our human settlements. Without some breakthrough in my day and age, there will be little progress in manned space flight. It's much more likely that our robots will be our ambassadors to the stars, and we will be long dead. I saw someone misquote Bruce Lee, or maybe plagiarize something he said. In a YouTube comment, somebody wrote the like water quote in a context outside of martial arts, so It was kinda apparent they were unclear of the quote's context. Maybe they didn't even realize they were copying his words. But the point I want to make is that you can be as good at karate as Bruce Lee, and they will still remember you for something else. The only reason he was interviewed and there was a microphone in his face was because he was a martial artist and actor. It was being interviewed that gave him the platform to be plagiarized from. Now, I do know that Bruce Lee did Kung Fu, JKD, not karate, which is better than Kung Fu, but still all around inferior to a real sport like BJJ, but the guy that wrote the original comment would have likely attributed it to Winston Churchill as soon as a martial artist. The real credit for the quote goes to the person that said, "Whoa, that guy's got some moves, there must be something special about him and he's probably got something to say." It was the interview and their filter of reality that choose how history was. Normal folks see a guy training, hitting a tree or breaking boards with his bare hand and they are like, "Kids, let's get away from that strange man before he hurts someone." Nobody normal wants or cares what he has to say. But someone took a chance and said, "What's up with this Bruce Lee? Dude, there is more than is apparently special about him." Did Bruce himself known those words would be saved and resonate through time? Was it something he always said, or was it an off-the-cuff throwaway to him? Most likely he plagiarized it, but I'll be real with you, I'm not sure where Bruce Lee's words came from. My observation is that his words ended up far from where they started. It's hard to know what art people will connect with, like what will they not just appreciate and love, but be inspired by and take with them forever as a part of themselves. I think that for different people they find their shit at different stages of life and for different reasons. I heard the Beatles the first time through friends when I was about 11 or 12, which is for me when my friends started to become more important in my life. Maybe I feel in love with the Beatles because somehow I knew it was a shared reference with the cool kids. I'm just saying I was impressionable at that age, like willing to have a first love and realizing I like this for the first time. I remember hearing Bob Marley jamming at the White Pines overnight camp dance. I still love Bob Marley. Maybe I heard jamming that day on a loud sound system where you can feel the bass. And when I say feel the bass, that means you can feel the bass in your prostate, so maybe there's a lot tied to liking Bob Marley. Maybe it has to hit you at a certain age. There has to be an amount of uncertainty surrounding your circumstances when you are most ready to attach to art. For most people this is while coming of age, midlife crises, mental illness, travel, and other times of instability. It was that song that was playing when something else that you will never forget happened. That doesn't make the song better. No, the music was always good. It was those moments you opened your heart to something. Where were you then? That's why you keep listening to the Beatles. I keep listening to the Beatles because I am with Matt Brockman when we were 12 and we were both alive and I was making friends of Bobby and John and Dan, and that's when art really meant something to me. If you sign up for a big tournament, especially something that you have to travel for, even if there are over 100 people in your bracket, consider that you could win. Consider the difference between losing early, losing late, getting third, or winning the whole thing. The difference may be based on something you could do between now and the day of the competition. Consider what you could have done yesterday that could have been more beneficial. This could be the framework of what you will work on today and tomorrow. I have felt insecure about my gas tank. What I would do is work out before practice. Like get super tired before everyone else even shows up. I have been worried I'll get caught by an exotic submission. Then study is the answer. Worried about travel and logistics. Get the roadmap out. Whatever is putting you at unease, address that. Not that that is your weakness. It's that confidence will be your strength. You should plan on that every form of uncertainty has been addressed and you can remove that burden from that day of the event. Again, feeling unworthy is the mind killer. You signed up. You've invested in this. You told your friends and family that you are going to this big Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament. You have shown you are already a winner by putting yourself out there. The goal is to know it at the right moment. If you take some time to list out and squash any misgivings you have about yourself ahead of time, that might be the difference between a third or a first, or being that guy that takes risks, or being known by others and yourself as accomplished at something you were originally embarrassed to talk about. My family doesn't get it. I'm going to my sweaty club where I roll around and touch other men. I'm trying to learn how to hurt people. I'm escaping from reality. Even a third at the big tournament won't mean shit to them. If you want some douchebag friend or family member that doesn't care about jiu-jitsu to raise an eyebrow, you have to win first. There's no prize money at stake. This isn't an Olympic sport. When your distant relative asks you about that thing they heard you won, that is your prize. People may or may not say, oh yeah, it's that guy. And I mean just getting glanced at by your aunt and uncle or friends from college for a moment isn't the goal. They are going to go back to forgetting about you in a moment. If anything, it should help. Affirm that you should look at yourself in the mirror and say, now, that is a cool guy. I know I used to think of myself on a constant what could you have done better yesterday mindset. I'm not saying to keep that mindset constantly. What I'm proposing is sign up for a big tournament and for even a short time focus. Prepare yourself mentally and physically so you can crush it, so you can have a reference in personal history that you can always point yourself toward when in doubt and in times of trouble and say, no, my depression, you are wrong. I am not incapable and worthless. I have overcome my fear and succeeded before on this day at this tournament, and I could do it again. I can always feel like that again. Personally, I am vulnerable and forever will be to depression and having irrational thoughts of myself or being pessimistic about my future. Having a couple sports accomplishments is nice to have in your back pocket for feelings like this. Look, I'm not the lifeguard here, you can run on the deck if you choose. I just think that people who say things like I'm bad with names are rude and I assume weren't raised well. If you have suffered some sort of a brain injury or you're an alcoholic and you forget things, well, okay. But if you are one to say, I'm bad with names to someone you just met, you should probably stop doing that, and someone should have told you before, because you obviously didn't notice or care about the cues. That people don't generally like shit like that. Thank you for declaring you don't care about this encounter, you beat me to it. Thing is, you might regret forgetting my name. See, people of character know that remembering names is polite and it is a skill. It's a skill that I was never taught, I but picked up on because I was raised well in so many other regards. It's more worth it to remember names than not. Recently I ran into an old jiu-jitsu friend, Greek Steve, and he thought I didn't recognize him. It broke my heart for a moment, cause I was there when we were buds and we still are. I'm still here, Steve. Hit me up. Nevertheless, letting others know you Remember them is tied to humility and civility. I remember my parents when I claim I have good manners. I see manners as a mark of someone who is trustable and likely to do good things, like be kind and honest when the situation arises. Manners means you are adaptable and headstrong, not a follower. Like it or not, being well-mannered is a trick to get ahead, not a sign of subservience or that you are some stranger's bitch. And I agree, much of what I said here is obvious, but I'm just saying. I don't feel like I relate with a lot of folks. Maybe this section will be unpopular, but I just don't connect. In my favorite activity of jiu-jitsu, people and students will often notice or admire my skills, but once the round is over, they try to drag me into some conversation about having kids and a life. Maybe it's an unconscious defense mechanism they have, maybe they are unaware of my circumstance of being poor, alone, and mentally ill. I'd rather be like you. I wasn't trying to rub your nose in it when I beat you at a sport. Please don't make me feel bad for sucking in other realms of life. Most folks haven't heard of jiu-jitsu or whatever niche, have you? Yeah, I'm not like a name in jiu-jitsu, but truth is I have never heard anything about you being Father of the Year. I feel most grounded while I have a guy in a triangle choke or a mermaid sweep or hammerlock. Not to shame anyone for asking me what my real job is, or if I have kids, or if I have a girlfriend, or anything other close to stability in my life. I don't. I apologize, I'm not relatable in those ways. People who get the most out of me are the people that understand I'm a weirdo with no life. Truly, I'm flattered if someone thinks it's neat I'm good at jiu-jitsu and wants to know more about me. I wish it was that easy for me to make friends. But I'm very lost, most likely because I'm mentally ill. People who need to be injected with ketamine every other week to keep themselves this side of suicide might not want to discuss their origin story. Maybe I should drop more hints if I'm so sensitive. I'm sorry if I don't drop more hints. I feel like closeted gay people who act sensitive about it are rude. I'm not gay, but I truly am not offended when people assume it. I wish I was just gay and could come out of the closet. I just don't have a life, and I just don't want one. It makes me feel weird to be put on the spot where I have to answer questions that lead to that truth. On the other hand, I don't like it when people talk about the weather either. It's like jiu-jitsu people updating each other on their injuries, haha. Maybe I should appreciate that my presence makes normal people weird, so they retort to hey, how's the shoulder doing kinda talk. I know most people know I'm weird and just don't want to dive in, haha. I don't hate on anyone for thinking I'm a goof or whatever, nor do I feel hated. It's just, yeah, not relating. I remember my regular guy coworker, who knew I was a jiu-jitsu guy, was like, if we got in a fight, you don't know how dirty I can get. While that is the right response to someone who will outclass you in a fight, he was wrong. I can fight clean, but boy, you better believe sometimes I think about doing it dirty. I lay off of doing it dirty all the time, with a few historical lapses in my better judgment. My students trust me cause they know I can take a hit and not take it personal or be vindictive. You can accidentally kick me in the balls during practice and I'm still your teacher, I'm still looking out for you, and I'm not mad. It's when the fabric of manners breaks down, then maybe I'll get mean. The best threat I ever gave someone was such my coach's stepson, who was like a 22-year-old boy who barely trained, was cleaning the mats as we lingered after the practice. I'm sitting there and he like casually sprayed the mat with bleach cleaner like Right next to me, even hitting me with droplets. I was kinda emotionally hurt. I was always nice to that kid. I gave him free private lessons to appease his stepdad and such, so I was like, hey, dude, you just sprayed me, thinking he'd apologize. No, he said, smirking, and I think because a few people were watching, he said, with a smirk, you shouldn't have been sitting there. I'm not possessive of items, but I was like, dude, this is the GIR1 Master Worlds in which he just sprayed with bleach. But as I was hurt, I came up with a new plan to threaten him. I was like, hey, bro, what's the next day you're coming to class? Maybe the next time we roll, an accident will befall you, to which Comprito laughed at his own stepson being openly threatened. The stepson looked visibly startled. But back to the threat, the kid knew I was able to hurt him. I had given him lessons, he knew all the senior students had his number because he barely trained jiu-jitsu, but he did just enough jiu-jitsu to imagine it could be pretty bad. In his imagination, I'm guessing, he was already getting it bad from me. Like I was trying hard when I'd mess with him when we'd a roll. But he was now realizing that I had been going easy on him the whole time I'd known him, and unlike his imagination where losing my good will involved me viciously cross-facing him and choking the shit out of him, it was more like, I'll seem friendly, and when I strike, I'll do it where a no can't be seen, and if I am, I'll play dumb, but right now you and I know it will be no accident. Needless to say, I never saw that kid ever put on a GI again, but for real, I just thought it was a funny way to threaten someone. I doubt I would go through with dropping him on his face, acting like I was trying to overhead sweep him, but oh no, at a precise moment, the strength in my legs gives out, and instead of cleanly rolling him over, his dumb face plants on the mat. Oops. The only person who could catch me at work would have been his stepdad, my coach, but Comprito seemed to think the threat was pretty amusing, haha. For these reasons and more, I would never pass the psych exam for being a cop. I would too casually take rude shit from perps and then relish in letting their head hit the car door kind of shit. Now I know that nowadays everything is filmed and police have body cams, but I could really make it look good. I would be abusing perps in ways that they would have to make new protocol for dealing with cops like me. On the other hand, I would make a great squirmer for cops to practice on in a wrestling room, or I could troubleshoot hammer locks for cops. Just saying. Just keep in mind, when it was like the 60s, their idea of the future was like Lost in Space and the Jetsons, flying cars and such. The reality of the year 2000 was different than the expectation. Maybe that goes to show that expectations are not foresight or prophecy, but rather expectations of the future will almost certainly be wrong. Maybe that is something we can arm ourselves with when we think about today's world and where it's going. The Jetsons had flying cars, let's say. So we could assume that transportation would be less relevant in the modern world than their expectation presumed. Which is true, I don't need a flying car to talk to people across the world, but I can in today's world. It wasn't flying cars that were the revolution to get you around the world, it was the internet and the computer. They were right in part, the world would get smaller, they just didn't know how. The world went from walking to horses to train to car, they were just taking the concept to the nth degree. No one predicted it. Was the telephone and the computer and math that made transport itself an inferior source of information. I feel bad watching Karen videos. I feel bad watching street fights. I feel bad watching police body cam footage. If I catch myself watching this shit, I try to revert to music or art content. Such a better space to live in. Maybe there's something to the running of the bulls, not the outright abuse to the bulls themselves. Eek. I mean, have a structured time to let young men endanger their lives for some sort of innate dumbass calling. It's better than having a bunch of bar fights and such constantly. If you have an event in your city, let's say like Florentine Renaissance-style football, which from what I can tell seems to be an all-out group MMA fight in a field with a ball. In the game there are some honor rules like don't gang up on one guy more than 2-on-1 and things like that. Its teams are comprised of the natural citizens of the different neighborhoods of Florence. Just locals, no outside ringers allowed. I would think playing this blood sport of honor might make you a better person in that these rudimentary rules of let's not totally kill each other can be ingrained in these young, and as such, dumb men. But there is more than that. These guys have something to prepare for in their free time. They aren't at the pub, they are at the gym, focusing on goals. They are pressured to get it out in a nice way. Don't get me wrong, young guys are dangerous. They are very hormonal, which means aggressive, they can be mean, etc. I'm not a horseman, but I've heard stallions can be dangerous. At least everyone knows a stallion is something to be considered when handling or riding them. Us guys have balls, and often the balls are too big to overcome logic. I mean, they're huge. But back to my running of the bull's premise. Guys need shit like that. We are hormonally, chemically dumb and reckless. Those chemicals will still be there if you don't get them out by chasing a wheel of cheese down a steep hill, doing a bare knuckle competition, or getting gored by a bull. One of my many faults is that I seem to gravitate to old art and prioritize it over newer stuff. If something is on my radar yet it has stood a test of time, that in itself is impressive. Along the same thought is that if I were digging deep into the deep cuts from the 60s to stuff that wasn't even popular back in the day, that'd be weird. I'm just saying something being new gives it an attention boost. The person who made it is most likely alive, and they themselves have a lot of influence on getting people to look at it. Dead guys can't push their shit on you anymore. Now again, it's wrong to say focus on the work of dead artists. I'm just saying that if an artist is dead and their work comes past my view, more likely than not the art is speaking for itself. Dead people art is more or less a new thing. Yeah, if you are Michelangelo and you carve shit out of stone, that could work, but most things decay. Music is gone immediately, so to speak. Maybe music suffers the most to the focus on new stuff. Cause that's what music is, it's a temporal phenomenon. Like time. Music is easy to start, just clap. Pair that clap with silence and now you got something. So in terms of time, the present is the best, at least compared with every other moment history. If you were alive for it, the present was a cool time to be there. But not cooler than now. Music is becoming as it's ingested. Unedited. Maybe. Music is relatable because we feel the uncertainty in the player themselves as the notes move forward. In a great song, we witness the coming of age of a creator, the realization they are in control. And we give them consent to lead us anywhere they want to go. Good. Live art is new and fun to those participating. If someone is having fun making something, it should be evident in the work. They are inventing, reinventing, discovering themselves as we listen. Surely a lot of pain goes into being an artist, from calloused fingers to inhaling paint fumes. They may have sacrificed their entire life to just have you listen to this one time. This one time you listen to an old live recording, it was from a seasick night and show on the road. This one got recorded and made it past your lens. That tour took months on the road, wore on the relationships of the members of the band. This is the artist's life in front of you. And they thought it was worth it. At least speaking for myself, if it brightens anyone's day in the least, that's why I made it. There's enough of everything that sucks. Speaking for myself, I've had enough of shit that sucks. I just want to help each other out. Know what I mean? I have a lot of terrifying dreams where the basic premise is I need to run away from something bad and I can't run. I'm resorting to bear crawling to just keep moving. I'm trying to punch someone and everything is slipping. I have to go back to high school. Maybe it says, for me, that I'm afraid of a loss of agency in my life. Fair, I truly have any control anymore. Dreams are not real, and as such, they display everything we don't want or don't have in our waking life. And I'm sorry to say, dreams can be while you are sleeping, but there is such a thing as day dreams. With that same stretch of logic, dreams can happen while high, while depressed, while euphoric, and other times while in immediate pain. It's our dreams that tell us the past or future, but not the present. They remind us where we were. They remind us of what we don't want. So back to my dreams, I need to run and fight. This must be because I'm like this. Probably because I'm scared. I'm just scared I'm inferior. This is one of my strongest attributes. If there is a realm I realize I'm dumb in, I'd be much happier feeling I know what I don't know. Like I could read the table of contents of a book and be able to realize the parts one know. Something or nothing at all. I feel confident in what I don't know. I sometimes wish other super confident folks would just realize we're a bunch of idiots. People make mistakes, can't remember, have bad attention spans, poor judgment. That's science. I'm sorry you are dumb. I know I am, I'm being honest with myself. I kinda admire my friend who has a high-functioning form of autism. He once said he's polite to everyone because it's hard for him to gauge if people think he was being rude. It's what we don't know that scares us. It's always the punch you didn't see coming that gets YA. It's that vulnerability I've been dreaming about. It's the bad dreams that need to be confronted. The good dreams need to be embraced and remembered. I don't want kids. It wouldn't be fair to them. I am too selfish. Anyway, I was just thinking that breakthroughs in science and arts don't follow an obvious calculus. Like how does someone grow up to be Michelangelo or Pythagoras? It wasn't a factor of pure IQ, let's say. Some root brought Newton up to the moment the apple fell on his head. What made him so ready to discover gravity? Look, I want to save the world. I think it's in trouble and it needs help soon. Humanity needs breakthroughs now. So I propose we figure out how human ingenuity works, as it's our best and only tool to do this. Again, it's not just the smartest or strongest that will do it. What's needed is the perfect trajectory of a person to have them ready for that apple to drop. Pondering this, my immediate feeling is that humanity wastes so many good eggs because of their race or gender. We waste our chances to get off this rock by having a patriarchal and casted society. Not to get too political, and I'm not a racist, but for your own survival alone we should be working together to get off this rock before it gets too hot, or another rock bumps into us. There is no time to be racist or sexist anymore. We need every good chance of an egg if we want that perfect life trajectory. so that they are there and ready to get hit in the head when the next apple drops. I am selfish, I don't care who or what solves how we are going to save this sinking ship, I just don't want it to go down in flames. I want my dear niece and nephew to have happy lives and their children and so on. Just saying, lots of people out there are checked out on the whole I'm gonna be an astronaut and save Earth fantasy of childhood. I say us adults are wrong, kids are right. Kids must be right because they just got here, they are not used to it, and they realize quick we need doctors, firemen, and astronauts. It's us adults who are too used to walking around looking down at the sidewalk and learn to think that everything is okay. And it's always going to be a child that will grow into what we truly need. Just so many missed chances, so many kids are given no chance by society. Again, I am selfish, I don't care about anyone outside of my friends and family, but I do believe they will come from a place we did not anticipate, or they will never become because we gave them no chance for a silly reason. I truly believe they will come from a place of need, refuge, and exclusion from the rest of society. They are the people who don't forget we need help because they see it around them as they grow. It's just many kids need a chance. Your family will not get you. The times will not be ready. Your peers will not respect you. You will not be appreciated in your lifetime. These may be signs you are doing it right. They don't know what they want. The future didn't know it was already over. By the past standards, the future was pretty obvious. A great idea is crazy till it's great. Prepare to be rejected. Prepare for disbelief. No one is going to like being overturned or led into a new line of thinking. They will be cranky. They will be grouchy. That is how the old thinking is. The old line of thought wants to rest and close the book. Because being open-minded and seeing things for the first time is stressful to confront. Your beliefs is radical and energy-consuming. I get why the audience would rather rest. But I'm just saying, let's wake up. Let's pass something on that will be grasped and valued and beneficial for all. Something that can withstand. The archaeological record shows that we will leave behind bones, tools, and cave paintings. I'm saying we find a cave and let's paint the hell out of it. Don't hit yourself. When you hurt yourself, you're hurting everyone that cares about you. It ain't the guys that pay to summit Everest. The real dogs are the Sherpas that get those fools up there. Let's see the Sherpas' lifetime stats at elevation, carrying oxygen tanks in the death zone. I want to see stats on these Sherpas. Pounds carried, elevation climbed, lives saved, deaths on the job. These are the record holders, the motherfuckers, Hall of Famers. They don't even want to go up there. They aren't choosing themselves like a pro athlete. There is no prestige, it is poverty being manipulated by outsiders. I want the Everest stats in the future. Climbers and Sherpas and porters. Each piece of terrain and elevation will have a difficulty and risk factor, vs pounds carried, vs hours without sleep. Bonuses in stat points for heroism. I don't think there should be any special stats awarded for summiting. Only that summiting means a longer journey, more hours in between rest, and most likely more chances for situations requiring heroism. Ultimately, I want to start putting money on Sherpas and playing the book on Sherpa stats. We will have like a fantasy Sherpa website with live feeds of Sherpa activity on Everest. Part of all money will go to Sherpas, haha. Most people think jiu-jitsu is an unnecessary skill set that only an asshole would want to learn. I've sensed it in a few of my lifelong observers. My brother-in-law, my childhood friend John, my dad and relatives. It's like something most people or their parents seek out learning for a reason. Presumably a bad reason. You want to hurt people, or at best you are scared and don't want to be hurt. Your normal person doesn't dwell on hurting one another so much. But I plead with you, there is skill and artistry involved in the execution of and teaching of martial arts. There are horrible martial arts teachers, there are phonies. There are shady MFs that think violence is funny or something. That should not dissuade one from learning something that's an art worthy of attention. Like any art form, jiu-jitsu is an expressive platform to be yourself. From a learning perspective, it is a complex problem solving exercise and a vast amount of skills to learn. It is an art form with which begin better relate to your fellow man. It is a cultural reference. Part of the herd is doing jiu-jitsu, or they know about it. Jiu-jitsu needs the Olympics to protect itself from a bad reputation. Jiu-jitsu needs the Olympics to make it legitimate. Because right now jiu-jitsu and MMA feel like black market products. This is how you write a book. You go to Word and start ranting. Then you do it again. Maybe Topian. Author, you have to make a habit of this, but to write one book seems easy, you just write stuff. I'll get this done in no time on the side. Kukahaha. Show them with art, save them with love. This is all for you. Beauty defies pain. It will be something beautiful that changes you. It will be positive. It will be fearless. It will be strong. We will understand it when it is interesting and flirts with you to come look closer. It's a familiar voice. Like how you have heard a song for the first time before. Somehow knowing you would look back at this moment as an anthem of you. Of you and who's around you. This is the feeling that can bring one back. This is why you want to live. You have seen the wonder before, it will come back again. A good reminder is to be immersed in art, to be giving and use yourself to inspire and save others. Remember who you were before everything else happened. You were ready, you were welcome to new things. Those are the feelings to harvest, songs to remember and keep in ourselves. Seeing a new place reminds us the world is vast in different ways and we have a lot left to see. Even if those landmarks become fewer and farther away, they are worth the road between. Just keep moving, you will get there. I want to make a living from my art. I need to streamline my process and increase the volume of output. I'll try to log as it goes, but so far I had to move my studio from the garage into the indoor basement because winter is gone freeze my paint out there. In the garage space, which was hectic and disorganized, it taught me how to streamline things, like have a space for each task, stage of the drying and cleaning. I've had voices of encouragement from Bobby and Andy and my parents. I have the wind behind my back. It's up to me to fulfill, and that's exciting. The Messiah be will in art form. He will be the next Paul McCartney. Hell, maybe Paul was a prophet and savior and I'm his 13th apostle of Hey Judaism. About Hey Jude, only you can make it better. That's the lesson. Some folks are taught some of these by parents and mentors. Some are taught by the radio and the Beatles. My Huck Finn, my friend Matt Brockman, introduced me to the Beatles. I'm so glad that Paul was a great compass for my Matt. He needed guidance and found it in old pop music. They kicked Matt out of SOP the Gifted program in 5th grade and sent him back to the more local school. It was heartbreaking. They crushed a flower. Matt died at 33 of a fentanyl overdose. I'd write District 15 in suburban Chicagoland a letter if it would do many good. Threw my friend from a broken home out of something that made him feel special. Fuck you, adults. It's been over 25 years and I still can't fathom that shit. He was one of the most intelligent, funny, warm-spirited people I have ever met. Even if his grades were lower, he needed the class and the class needed him. ID that the lesson we were there to learn. If a kid who is by their test very intelligent gets bad grades or something, take things away from him. No, that is who we should embrace and nurture, not throw away. Ms. Frankel, you fucked up an MS. Fig you could have done more. My parents loved the boy, but fuck, I wish we all did more. My friend from the Gifted program died. What did you teach us? I've gone through my life up to this point thinking that the afterlife was a carrot or a threat to the living. I've kinda realized that it's a comfort for survivors. Honestly, I wish my dead friends were somewhere. Even if I never heard from them again, if they were just out in space on the moon or something, I just wish it were. I miss them and a part of me is gone too. I wish I could let them know it's okay, I'm not mad. I'm not weighed down by survivor's guilt, we are getting through it. Maybe I want them to know that I embrace their memories and I will do my best to carry it on. Maybe it's just always best to treat people in this day and age that they are loved and special. Don't let the chance to do something good pass you by. I have fun making artwork chessboards. I imagine what it would be like to play on them and what would it be like to really understand chess. I'm a BJJ black belt, so I get there is a lot going on in chess. Like if I was obsessed with making artwork on tatami. I'd be a craftsman, not a martial artist, but one who dreams of fighting. I dream about chess while I make the boards. I dream about the texture of the game and battle and the people that will sit across from one another. I imagine children learning to play on these. I imagine them woven into the fabric of their memory. I want my artwork to be a part of people's lives. I want them to be kept, even passed down. I want to give chessboards to my friends and family. I want the piece to go up in value while they keep it and play on it over the years. I wanted to move with them, get lost in their attic, dug up by their relatives. I want people to come upon one and say, what the fuck is this? Was this something of Aunt Kate's? She was cool. She mentioned she was a therapist for a lot of weirdos. I wanted the artwork to grow in value as I want it to grow as large as I value and love my people. I would just love for my sister's descendant to see my art on like Antiques Roadshow, where a descendant of my friend who got gifted my artwork finally tried to get it appraised. I'll be long dead. Never bet on the home team. Your heart deceives you. The heart is the mind killer. You will always overestimate what you love. Strip yourself of the heart. It misleads you. Only math can win. Only the scientific method will show what is. You need to bet the winner, odds be damned. I wonder how often my uncle bets against the Chicago Bears, or worse, the Cubs. When he knew the Cubs would lose, he just didn't bet the right bet, although heartbreaking, is often against the Cubs. This is why sports betting is sad and often corrupt. My old jiu-jitsu coach Compredo was contracted to train this pro fighter, Mike Russo. They would often have session before the normal noon jiu-jitsu class, and I would show up early and watch while I pretended to stretch or work with a new student. I was very often a fly on the wall in those days. They would bring in other local heavyweights to spar Russo. Herc, Gabe, Steve, even Curtis Blades, and I slowly made friends with the group of behemoths as they would breathe and sit out around. Anyway, my coach had this UFC fighter student, Mike Russo. And Mike was way overmatched in his next pro fight against up-and-comer Todd Duffy. As I watched the fight on TV, our guy Mike Russo got the shit kicked out of him for 2.5 rounds, but out of nowhere he knocked Duffy out and had one of the biggest comeback wins in MMA history. Very cool. But then back to the training sessions. The next Monday, at the gym, at Russo's normal training day, they just recapped the fight. Russo had his arm in a sling. He said to my couch, Compredo, after that first round, my arm was broke from blocking a kick, and I didn't know where I was. I think I was listening you, I remember. That you wanted me to keep going. Miraculously, Mike Russo pulled it out of the fire and got the W. At a cost. But there is more. A day or two later, we were in the locker room after a practice and one of the guys says to Coach Compredo, "Hey, did you have fun in Vegas during UFC weekend?" To which Compredo said, "No, I don't want to drink or cheat on my wife. I don't want to gamble." But then, again I bet $1,000 on Mike. I locked eyes with one of the other reasonably guys that was there. He just admitted that with absolutely no guilt. Shit. What if he let Mike die in the ring? For the sake of his side bet. I had already decided my path was in BJJ, not MMA, from a while back, but this solidified it. The guy I trusted most as my coach would even let a student get hurt for just a few extra bucks. It was sad to see my friend and mentor to stoop so low. But yes, I love the man, and yet I just want to take his side for a second in that MMA and Jiu-Jitsu are not taken seriously by the mainstream, by the Olympics. My old CPAC Compredo was a 2-time open weight champion. Even with the boom in backslash enthusiast in BJJ, he had to resort to, "I'm sorry coach, but you betrayed Mike Russo when you made that bet." But again, the marital arts appreciating world wasn't enough to carry you, much less you and your loving student, me. I can't give you a formula of how to be wise. I will say that second guessing yourself and listening to chatter in your own head won't help. In terms of creativity, pulling the trigger is key. Second guessing has no home in a jazz band. Don't edit as you go. Some dipshit can proofread for you later. Let's hear your voice, belt it out, let's hear you sing. First draft is the only draft. Jackson Pollock couldn't hold back as he threw paint at shit. Fact check me later, haha. If I write a book, I want it to have a soundtrack or playlist to go along. It'd be the same stuff I listened to as I wrote it and made my paintings and such. I went back to say, "I love my niece. You are wonderful. Also, my nephew may be a genius." I can't evoke his name in my own thoughts without considering that he will find a way with some sort of an instrument that he invented and go back and see what I thought of him. "Andy, your uncle loves you. I would never want you to know that all the adults at this point can tell you. are very smart and we want to keep a lid on it just so you don't develop an inflated ego. We can help raise a really smart kid, but if the ego thing got out of control, well, that's the only realistic way we as a family can fuck this up. So you know, kid, it'd be easy for me to chew up my kinda crummy life thus far and be like, it'll be worth it if we can raise this kid. I'd never want you to think there would be pressure like that from me or anyone else in the family. All the adults right now are holding back their excitement for you. I mean, they have all seen smart kids. Please never let your poor loserly uncle burden you in any way. Your great-grandpa Ray said your dad was reading at age 3. Both of them would agree. Your reading skills came on faster. Grandpa Joe saw your mom and I as kids who were in tracked classes and such, and Grandma Sue agrees. You have such potential. Now as a failed, smart kid and someone with mental instability, I'm gonna guess it's up to you to fuck up. In that I mean, if anything goes wrong, it's going to come from inside you, so to speak. Not that 5, it will be your fault if something goes wrong. I'm just saying there will be doubt. There will be hard feelings and hard times. I think you will be strong and face your fears. I'm mostly writing this to make myself feel better, haha. It's okay to be afraid or to be sad, but it's also okay to be brave, and I want you to know that you will be brave. I know you will. We love you, Andy. And to my niece, if I didn't write a passage about your God-given super intelligence, I apologize. We adore you nonetheless. I'm sorry I didn't call your mom sooner when you were born, and I'm sorry I missed the first year and a half of your life due to COVID. A year and a half that you were shitting and spitting up everywhere, keeping your parents up all night, and generally making things kinda suck. Sorry I missed that. Thank you for so many great moments with my little niece. Maybe you will understand this more than most. I wish I had more time with you to spell it out. I'm trying to leave a lot of me out there in the internet, written down in art, so I can be there with you when I can't really be there. You grew up very far from me, so I've grown accustomed to the idea that I can one day be there for you as an echo. But I love you, you silly monkey. Did Socrates' friends go to his first open mic night? I'm too trusting of autocorrect. I act like, oh, you must be right, I wouldn't second guess you. Autocorrect, my old friend, I wouldn't want to hurt your feelings when you underline a word I've spelled the same way for years. At my friend Nathan's funeral, who was a poetry professor, his advisor was there. I told the guy that me and the guys wanted to start a website to share our friends' poetry and shit. The advisor was probably like, the fuck you will, this ass hole has never ever read a poem. If you get 15 minutes of fame, fill every second. Do an intro, take a bow, write the sequel beforehand in case they really like it and want more. My family is Swiss, Austrian, and Polish or German. No, we were all out of Central Europe before the Holocaust, and we were in America after slavery was abolished. Both of my grandfathers fought in the Pacific in World War II. I grew up doing Shotokan karate. I'd like to claim me and my own have avoided being pinned with global-level atrocities. I'd say we've called a good game. While my father and I didn't go to war, I am not going to lay down while the world around me turns to shit. I'm going to talk shit about conservatives and any leanings that absolve hate. I'm not dropping the ball now. You could tell me you are a small business owner, you can't be an outspoken bleeding heart leftist, especially in a conservative world like martial arts. And you're right in that. People can get back at me by refusing to give me my business. Or that conservatives may try to neck crank me when I agree to roll with them and welcome them to my gym. Fucker. Anyway, if people refuse to pen money at my BJJ chul, I could give a fuck. As far as I'm concerned, the martial arts world has taken advantage of me, a real artist. So fuck you, come at me or don't be my student. I don't want your dirty money and your ugly presence. I'm a martial artist, most people just want a gym coach. I want to enlighten, not just teach. I want to beat people up and have them walking away thinking about fighting in a new way. I want to have experiences with my students and become better together. I want my lessons to be eye-opening and prophetic. As a teacher, I want to know what you are thinking and feeling. I want you to wonder what I'm thinking too. I'm really abusive to my future self. By the time I could shave, I was already getting grey hairs. Once I finally wanted to write, no one really read books anymore. Sometimes I try to do little things impulsively that kinda catch me by surprise. I want to entertain the studio audience in my head. I feel like it's a good practice to keep myself interested. If I'm not having fun, then certainly no one would be interested. I don't look at art much, but I want to be an artist. I write but don't read. I can play a lot of different instruments. My musical preferences tend to be virtuosos. I'm not into the weeds enough in music to know better. If I was going to watch jiu-jitsu matches or even suggest a normal person watch a jiu-jitsu match, I'd say watch one of the best high-level displays ever. I could watch jiu-jitsu matches of people that kinda suck for fun because I'm in those weeds. But again, I don't read, so I know. Like, who am I kidding? I should not be writing. But that hasn't stopped me before, and it probably won't stop me again. I don't know much about art, but I know enough to say most art sucks. Most good art was made serendipitous in a special freak moment while something else was going on. It was something unintentional. It was unplanned, or it wasn't exactly the plan. It was among the throwaways. The more I go back and read my own stuff, I realize that everything can be read in different ways. Meaning to my reader is unpredictable, and I really only have a loose grasp on the nozzle story of my life. Anyway, the written word leaves a lot of ambiguity in how it's understood. Even I can't read the same sentence twice in the same way. How could one write a book and think like everything is going to be interpreted? What if my audience is young, a poor reader, poor attention span, or is new to English? I have to just write what I can, as close to my true heart, as close as I can to how I really feel. Sometimes I think these means hashing things out in like a copy-pasta style. Like exhaustively explaining things, ha. I want to write a book, but it just seems like kinda an antiquated premise. As if I'll write this book and someone will sit down and actually read it. At least not my audience. A book would have to be pretty interesting to get me personally to read books again. I feel like the audience that would get me doesn't actually read. Or maybe the audience that needs my voice won't ever hear it. I don't know where to be so they can find it. But I have been writing, so that's a start. I'm probably opening myself up to criticism by writing. At least writing in the way that I do, where I feel like I try to make myself exhaustively clear. I'm probably letting people get a really palpable feel of how douchebaggy I am. I feel like this form of expression will lose me more friends than, say, visual art or music or even martial arts. Which is odd because I get to thoroughly explain myself and how I really feel. Maybe most of my friends don't know me on such an intimate level, or they are friends with me for some other reason. I don't really know. You are the company you keep, so if I lose friends for writing something they don't like, it reflects on my shallowness, lack of commitment to people, and the compartmentalization of my interrelationships. If a friend reads my book and puts it down thinking less of me, I'm sorry. But I would rather give a true vision than to sugarcoat things. And I don't hate you for wanting to put my book down. I assume I'd really enjoy seeing someone's real self like this. It's kinda painful to write really personal and true things because often I know I'll regret that I let something out there. But here I am. Immoral. Naked. I have a big dick and I am sorry for that. Please forgive me. I accidentally slammed it in a drawer at least 3 times by now. I don't talk to myself, I just address the live studio audience and then break the fourth wall. I behave and watch what I think about a lot of the time with the underlying fear that my thoughts and memories will be replayed or observed in the future or in a separate level of reality. It's important to me to keep up the appearance that I'm trying to be good. And if there is no studio audience watching my thoughts, then I think it at least serves as a good device to check myself from running out of control. Also, just writing out my deep dark thoughts is a gateway for the future judge. Me. My feeling at this point is maybe someone who isn't willing to write their darkest secrets out could read this and feel vindicated. That there is no need to be shy about who you are or what goes on in your head. I'd bare my true as to everyone in the history of the world, but I feel unashamed. I had no other choice but to be like this, I guess. I felt like I needed a boost today. Like going to Facebook and saying I'm depressed, which isn't new, and I'm running out of people that care. I'd thought maybe the answer would be to do something for someone else. My friend I can. Maybe would be my friend Tony, Sticky Spray, the prank phone call guy. I really do love my friend even if he's not in love with his own male friends. But I love Sticky Spray. He is an entertainer, a free spirit, a rebel. I just feel like maybe our bond, and the bond to a large amount of our group of friends, is our kind of feeling of being trapped alive. Maybe that sounds wrong. We feel trapped being alive. Like you don't really agree to having to live your life. So Tony and I are kinda in the same boat in terms of that. But as I said, I love the man. He is always trying to make people laugh despite whatever he may be going through. I love the man because when I think of Sticky Spray, I remember a lot of good times of smiling and laughing. One time, I got hit in the face in jiu-jitsu and it hurt a muscle in my cheek that would curl up when I laughed. Sticky was doing his old prank phone call thing that night, and I was in agony as I kept cracking up laughing. After knowing the man for shit 30 years, my thoughts go to be of him being painfully funny. You hurt me. No, it's okay, I'm not mad. Jim Curry is a magnificent Dakota, but he would rather paint and not be a celebrity. While I'm happy to hear that he is onto something else that makes him happy, I'm glad he was a funny comedian in movies though. He was in comedy and acting a genius, but it seems like his heart was somewhere else. My heart will always be in jiu-jitsu, where I can't really go anymore. I'm too broken in too many ways. I want to paint a house. Not like that. I want to really go for it and like cover everything. I want cornice, trim, windows, switches, electrical outlets, doors that are connected into the display. I want to have great detail in places where people might occupy or things be apparent from certain perspectives where people may sit, etc. I want the building itself to be an art piece. The viewer will occupy the space. IT will itself be the work in the museum. Probably will have to be a bar or venue so it can exist into the future. Maybe for that fact it will need to be in a more or less primary state. Like the Vatican, is that taken? So it will probably need to be leveraged with investors somehow. I just want it somewhere where it can be seen and experienced by visitors. So it needs to be in a metropolitan city, like off the Strip though. I want it to be a short walk from the main drag. If it itself will be a destination, it doesn't have to be right on Bourbon Street. Should it include furniture, as it should? It should contain chessboards in the tabletops. I don't think anyone gets my depression, nor would I want them to. I think I must send a chessboard to Andre 3000. 2 reasons. Cause I have something to say to him, and if he can help my boards get exposure, but I don't even have an ISTI. So what am I worried about? What I want to say to him is, let's find Buckethead and have them make a hit. Second off, I love me some Andre 3000. God damn. I loved Outcast. Third, well, maybe Andre will learn to love chess as much as he loved hip-hop. Then he will become really good at chess competitively and become a grandmaster. I think he'd be into that. Maybe I should actually send him a board. I'm gonna have to make it look like perfect. He didn't skip a fucking beat on Jazzy Bell. Fuck that, I'm gonna make sure I give Andre a perfect example of my work. Who the fuck would send something the Andre 3000 in the mail and in not be flawless? This is gonna be for real. I'm excited and I hope he likes the chess board. Oh yeah, the real mission though. There's like this guitar guy named Buckethead. He's like weird and enigmatic, but he's a fucking virtuoso. Let's find him. I just think you have more to say. And this lost soul Buckethead needs a voice to play with. Damn, I'm just saying. I know it's ugly. It's a self-portrait. I want to invite Barack Obama to a jiu-jitsu tournament. I want to gain notoriety for jiu-jitsu. I want jiu-jitsu in the Olympics. I started training jiu-jitsu when I was a student at Knox College. I quickly realized it was what I truly wanted to learn and took to seriously learning the intricate martial art. After college, I went on a trip to train in Brazil, which really galvanized my dedication. When I came back home to O'Hare Airport, there were signs around hyping up Chicago as the prospective host of the 2016 Olympics. I remember thinking that would be just in time for me to be ready if only jiu-jitsu was an Olympic sport by then. Surely someone would have gotten this sports act together by then. But alas, it is now 2023 and I don't think we are any closer. Younger me would have thought someone else should get on that, but I'm realizing it's up to individual people to make something happen. It's up to me. I couldn't name someone I would rather have embrace jiu-jitsu than President Obama. I want to invite him to come watch a live tournament with me and I can teach him about the sport. Transparently, I just want jiu-jitsu in the Olympics, if anything else. I'd love to share some of my passion and life's work with a man everyone respects so much. I'll pick out a few dates that would make sense. But note, there are some political considerations to make. While I'm talking about sport Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's not to be confused with mixed martial arts like the promotion the UFC. MMA uses a lot of Jiu-Jitsu, but do note, the UFC is very polarized to the right, to the point that Trump goes to the events. There are two main Jiu-Jitsu promotions that I would suggest we do. The IBJJF, which holds the World Championships. This is a prestigious amateur GI event. The top competitors are drug tested, but not everyone, which is not Olympic standards. The other main Jiu-Jitsu league is ADCC, a no GI professional event. With less rules and no drug testing, it is good for publicity for the sport but bad for setting an Olympic standard. I think it would be best to go to an IBJJF event. I would suggest Master Worlds at Jiu-Jitsu Con August 29th, 2024, IBJJF Worlds. Or even Chicago Open may be the most convenient. I understand Obama is too busy for this nonsense, maybe though he or his handler can steer me towards someone else who might want to champion the cause of getting this sport in the Olympics. President Obama. My name is Jim Barrett. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and I'm just inviting you to go with me to the IBJJF Chicago Open on April 27th. I want BJJ in the Olympics, and I imagine bringing you to see what the sport is would be a great first step for us. Just you being in the stands would be a huge honor for all the competitors who come to this event every year. I'll say no more. I know you have a lot of important former president stuff to do. Thank you, Jim. It's like there's no money in fasting. You just need to give up. Nirvana is not profitable to others. 2. Say fuck it is not going to be popular. People that give a fuck will try to hold you back. Pompeii was like a sliver of time, saved forever. Now with pictures and video recording and sharing around the world, we are saving space-time for the future. We are in the age of being in micro Pompeiis every moment we photograph. I'm just very inspired by it always. Sunny in Philadelphia. The length of time they have been active and hitting. The Beatles broke up, John Bonham crooked young, these guys are still going. Even Danny DeVito seems healthy for an older guy. And he broke the mold of add a character to save the show. He was immediately loved and embraced by fans of the show, and if not, made the show way better. I'm gonna get on my parents watching Sunny instead of the crap they watch. It's like the Three Stooges, it's part of the culture. They are a sign of the times. When you are depressed for 20 years, it's easy to entangle depression with your own self-image. Depression starts to define who you are. During my ketamine treatments, I felt like I was more able to unravel my depressive thought patterns from my underlying true self. It led me to the realization that I am more myself without depression. I feel like a brief shift in perspective gave me the insight I needed to separate myself from my illness. I had a cathartic moment during my ketamine treatment that changed my perspective on a previous conversation I had with my father and ultimately made me rethink my true life's potential going forward. So the conversation went like this. My father and I were talking about my 6-year-old nephew, who already appears to be very intelligent. At 6, he already reads entire series of novels intended for kids in 3rd grade. My father and I agreed that the boy has huge potential. You are off the charts too. At 10 years old, you got a perfect score on your IQ test, my father reminded me for like the millionth time. You have creative talents and are literally untrained. But even with that, we both know you never really applied yourself, which is 100% true. I already knew this about myself, but then my dad said something that I had to think about. He said, if you were on a different path, you might have been Michelangelo. I definitely rolled my eyes at this. I took it as he was actually being nice to me, in that the sentiment was that I was deep down a genius, but I got derailed by my illness. So then, during my ketamine treatment, I started to think back to what Dad said. I was stuck in this belief that my potential had been wasted, my life had little value left. While in a dissociated state, I felt like I gained a different perspective on my father's words. His words echoed, said exactly. They were, if you were on a different path, not if you took a different path. No, the final word may not have been written on me. What my life was like before now has not ruined my future. There may still be time to change and maybe not be the next Michelangelo, but I could still be more of who I wanted to be. This ketamine treatment itself was what was freed me of a depressive cycle. The treatment was what was giving me newfound perspective, and now a chance to take a different path. Cognitive model of ketamine therapy. My doctor explained that the goal of the therapy is the accumulation of ketamine metabolites and their after effects. However, during my treatment, I've experienced some enlightening moments during the peak effects of the drug that I thought were notable. I'm down now to a ketamine sesh every 3 weeks. I know this whole treatment is a neurological intervention, not a way of life. They are hoping to drop me to fewer and fewer treatments. It just seems like thoughts of being miserable are trickling back. I'm afraid what's going to happen when there's no interventions left. My psychiatrist sent me to the ketamine neurologist as there weren't any solutions left. So it's just back to being my personal fault. Maybe I deserve being sad. This is just the process of realizing that there's nobody that gets me. I would wrap it up, but there are a few family members and friends that still love me, and it would hurt them if I killed myself. Even the Beatles wrote some shitty songs, but usually they wrote good stuff. I've accidentally looked at porn of transsexuals here and there. Sometimes they look well at first. Then I realize they have a penis or what have you. I'm not saying I have an outright aversion to transsexuals. I just don't think it's gonna work. Like you and me, if you are a transsexual. Like it seems like a lot of work. I don't see me being close to anyone who would put so much work into something like that. I'm just saying. Gender is not a character dimension I've ever put much stock in. Similarly, I don't get tattoos and I don't have too many friends with tattoos. First off, they look dumb. Secondly, they are permanent. Some people are surprised to find that out, I guess. I just don't get why someone would have a bumper sticker on their car. Is it to broadcast to strangers what you are about? There's a lot more to me than meets the eye. I couldn't sum it up in a simple tattoo. It just feels disingenuous to me. There are like some folks in my circle that while I may not see eye to eye with them on some things, I do have greater respect for them if they are down to do jujitsu with me. I don't get it. Many of my lifelong friends and friends since childhood hate talking about jujitsu with me, let alone would they Step foot into a gym and onto the mats. I'm an oddball out in this regard. The types of folks I tend to buddy up with in general are not the martial arts type. Fighting is just not what my friends and family are about. It was an interest that I had to attach to on my own. But when I meet people with very different worldviews from mine, but they are willing to get down and try to do jiu-jitsu with me, they will forever have a special place in my heart. There are also some assholes in there that I hate. I've never do heroin or meth or even ecstasy. I just figure I'll lose some of my sympathetic type character vibe and just be a shamed loser. Plus I've lost enough friends to drug overdoses. I have limited time on this earth and I have even less of your attention, let alone my own attention. We all trust doctors, but truly, a human has very limited time to learn everything. The best we can do is prepare ourselves to wing it. If your therapist tells you to write a book, your session is probably about out of time. But seriously, though I think my therapist is interested what I have to say and a great listener, she's the best. But that said, my therapist told me to write a book a few times. It was good advice. Or a great way to wrap up a phone call. I came here to write an essay about Led Zeppelin, but I think Otto got it best. If you want the best guitar player for your band, ask Eric Clapton who the best in the world is. Opening your second album with a 4-minute drum solo is just asking to being hated. That just shows how they knew they would be listened to regardless. How long would Jimmy Page have to spend busking before someone said, "Hey, you gotta hear this kid"? It's easy to love something if you know it will last forever, be it art or a stuffed animal. Led Zeppelin is the type of shit that needs to be on the Voyager spacecrafts that introduce extraterrestrials to human music. Usually a song highlights the vocals as the frosting on top, but Zeppelin had these guys that could sing through their instruments. It takes a good friend to know your reading level but understand your resistance to a subject and dumb it down for you to understand fully. I want to write a book. I mean, the premise of I'm gonna write my book is out there for most people. I guess there were good ones, like Mark Twain and shit. But problem is, I don't see myself or anyone my age actually reading anymore. Maybe my problem is I want to speak to people who are too lost already. If I could in fact write a book, it'd be amazing. Such a project was completed. It'd be like a world record for most dysfunctional person to write a book before they had to escape their burning house that they let happen. But that's all the wisdom and audience I can speak to. A book for idiots who don't want to read, as spoken by one. It is embarrassing to be a jiu-jitsu guy and an IBJJF supporter when they back a freak show like Micah Galvao. For some background, Micah was at a time the youngest person ever to be awarded a BJJ black belt at 17 years old. At 18 he won his first adult world championship against Tyrudo Tolilo, only to have it revoked because he failed the drug test for some steroid precursor or some shit. The IBJJF took away his world's title, but they let the kid back in eligibility again almost immediately. Now he's won the 2024 Worlds and IBJJF is riding him again. Apparently, what is also background info to the UN and misinformed is that steroids change you for life, and if someone is skilled who is on steroids, the two things cannot be parsed. Steroids give you more mat time, it's that added mat time that makes their technique good. All of their experience and skills are tainted. Plus it is unfair to say everyone does it with a stance of complacency. I want better for the sport. I don't want my friends and students have to be pressured into doing something dangerous. I want jiu-jitsu in the Olympics. IBJJF is proving themselves to be poor stewards of the sport when they celebrate a human science project like Micah. Is there a place where I can find other narcissists like me? Do they have a club I haven't been invited to? All of my friends and family don't seem interested in me. I know my expectations are too high. I don't want to keep bugging my friends and family with my goofiness. Nobody seems to like it. I rather just show my art and such to someone that wanted to see it at least. No one ever said you should open a martial arts school to me. I did have a couple ugly people tell me I shouldn't. I had a friend say, "Oh, my kids don't need to know jiu-jitsu." That's not the point. The point is to learn it from me. Because I'm your childhood friend and a special person and teacher. And that experience could never be bought or replicated. But sure, your kids don't need that. Great. Thank you to all my friends who tried jiu-jitsu over the years, which amounts to like Dan rolling with me on acid in my front yard one time. I want to design a structure that is in itself an instrument and a theater in which an audience can occupy. I want the entire thing to buzz as it's played. It may be a problem for sensitive women or men with tuned-in prostates. I've described to friends that I want to make electric bagpipes with a bong in it. And possibly a fountain too, just for aesthetics. Or maybe build it on a waterfall like that Frank Lloyd Wright house. In a way the waterfall itself could play the instrument like air through a flute. Or the water dropping could be modulated. Someone told me I was basically envisioning a cathedral with a pipe organ. Or a splash pad of sound. My vision is to have the pipes of the organ be part of the structure itself, in that I want being there or in it to be an auditory and tactile experience to the audience as they will occupy a resonating instrument. But my instrument will honor something other than God. My cathedral phone will honor music as a god in a kinda Grecian mythological sense. To the argument of this won't get made. If it is a real idea, it will be made by someone at some point, with or without me, if the idea stands for itself. Walking through a sousamophone, the audience inside an ocarina, the timbre of the sound will be felt. Through the floor and walls, the rhythm will move the structure itself. If it's a pipe organ, the pipes will be throughout, the walls will shake like a handpan or steel drum. Or electric bagpipes, with many outputs that can be interacted with by many players. Perhaps keep these working pieces in controlled key signatures. Or if we go completely digital with this idea, make it like a theme park ride, like have power steering, so to speak, on the bass to the vibrations or movements of the ride or chair. With that said, I also envision a theme park ride that is designed to simulate a ketamine or DMT trip. I digress. At its completion, I'd like John Paul Jones or Buckethead to write and play music for it. I don't necessarily feel sorry for myself, which may set me apart from the crazy person stereotype. If I met someone like me, I would hate them. I think the fact that I feel bad is expected. I've come to feel more or less normal when I'm having an emotional breakdown. Like learning how to not wipe my eyes while I cry is an old discover for me. I hate myself, so I don't really feel sorry for me. I deserve it if I feel bad. I know it. Scares people to hear that, but I'm not crying wolf or crying for help. I should probably stop this train of thought so I don't start formulaically explaining how to kill yourself. Ha ha. The problem about writing personal things is I'm totally open to judgment, even by my future self. I hope that forming a habit of writing out my thoughts, maybe I'll be able to trace back to when I was a worthless piece of shit and how I became better. And yeah, I don't think I'm that great or have much self-esteem, and while it is better to know that about yourself than not, I know there is a lot of room for improvement. I go to book sales to find oversized books to make art out of. It's starting to give me the sense of how valued books are and how the future will look at them. I get a sense that at a dead media, and that without me these books will never be seen again. Maybe I'm not being aggressive enough about the whole book saving thing. I've been involved in martial arts my whole life. Maybe that's why I have a sport-first perspective on combat sports. When I'm at my best, I'm just trying to win game. A few times I've hurt people in submissions and my thought was confused as to what they were thinking when they didn't tap. Anyway, I don't want to hurt people. I really enjoy the sport and art of jiu-jitsu. And unfortunately that separates me from a lot of folks that want to learn how to fight. I'll do mean stuff if it's calculated and for a purpose in the game, but not just for the sake of being mean. The type of people attracted to jiu-jitsu tend to be on a conservative, if not reactionary, on the political spectrum. The typical person that wants to learn to fight tend to be scared. They tend to be suspicious of their fellow man. They assume human nature is mean. And yeah, that's the world of people I find myself in. I want to play a game, but all the training partners and students or the parents of kids want this skill set for a completely different reason than me. Maybe I can be there as an example of a different kind of motivation. Maybe a kid was brought to jiu-jitsu because of their scared and phobic parent, but maybe part of my attitude can rub off on them. There are some stats out there that says out of 100 white belts, 1 will get to black belt. The truth of feeling of that is like there have been a lot of people over the years that I have seen come and go from jiu-jitsu. While I've held out, all these different guys I've known who I once thought were an equal match fell out. I overtook them and figured out how to get them. On the other side of the coin, I was able to get to black belt. Also because I've had the experience of kids overtaking me and who I could once beat now are a much taller, if not impossible task. Having had this experience before, it doesn't bother me or hurt my ego as it was at first, and I'm more resilient to that vulnerability. This experience is a strength in my opinion, and it's a mindset worth adopting if you want to keep going. I would argue that it's an important part of the process to look at and listen to your own shit. Although it can be difficult to put yourself in the mindset of what it's like. For a first-time viewer, it can be helpful for future creations to have an idea where the eye and mind go. This is contrary to the reason I think normal people think us crazies are into their own art. I'm just trying to best understand what I made to enlighten future versions of me to be better. I've had people walk in on me listening to my own track and felt embarrassed, or they made fun of me. If people knew how much time I spent looking at old projects, they might be weirded out or be concerned or sorry for me. Maybe my book will be able to bridge this gap between the world as I see it and theirs. More than likely this book will drive away the people that actually read it and grasped my true, ugly nature. Yet, I'm aware of this. And I'm pushing forward as like an experiment in madness. Were this book to be finished, I can Imagine some folks will read it. My friends and family, well, limited amounts of each. My niece and nephew won't be allowed to read it for a long time, even if they are mentioned in it. It's probably best they don't know their uncle is this off the rails for the foreseeable future. It's hard to say who will get through it, since I can't fathom myself listening to a track or looking at a picture for someone else or anything really. There's like zero chance I would read an entire book for a friend. Well, I guess if I heard it was good or published or something, I'd read it. Maybe if it had a cool cover and the friend gave me a signed copy. Hint hint. With that said, I hope my book has a cool cover, and yeah, I'll sign it for you. I might regret that. I know some celebrities and such don't sign things unless it's for charity. Fuck it, I'll do it. I mean, if someone's obviously reselling it, they can bite me. Luckily, I have already decided on a cool way to do my signature. For the TD at the end of the name Barrett, I make into like a star. I figure that's pretty rock star. It would be nice like if I had more female friends, so the next time there's a woman of interest I run into, she doesn't immediately jump to the conclusion that I want to rape her because other women have been scared off. Maybe I shouldn't have said or written that, but hey, this is what I do. So write out sentences that other people can't or won't write out. Also, I saw a local martial arts gym was doing a woman's self-defense seminar. I was thinking about calling to ask if I could participate too, so I could get an idea of what I'll be up against in the field. Yes, I am writing a book because I can and will write sentences that others can't or won't write out. But I will not use some words like the N-word or something. This isn't fucking Huck Finn. Operation Palatine Library. I make art out of books, and I need more and more coffee table-like books with large pictures to continue making my creations. Problem is to get books at the library book sales I have to compete with book resellers that take some of the space and nature books I'm after. So I want to offer Palatine Library one of my art pieces as a sign of bribery, so they will let me check out the book fair early. My purpose with the books is in fact to repurpose them, which one would think the library would be behind anyway, so I know I'm technically destroying books as they were originally intended, but I guess I just hope the art speaks for itself in this matter. I should be allowed to be as weird as I want on my own property. If I want to pass out on my doorstep, so be it. If I want to smoke a blunt while my neighbor is having a family party, light me up. Nunchucks. Yep. Nudity. Casually. Plus, I'm at about my limit on the whole lawn maintenance thing. One day I might totally snap and make the entire front lawn a compost pit. I'm mad, that's right. This Godman town is gonna learn what I have to say about mowing your fucking lawn. And that is zero. I have nothing to say about that. I have zero to say about an outdated practice that wastes our resources, our time, and most preciously, my breath. One day short to go down to City Hall and give them a piece of my mind. Or maybe I'll just write them a letter or something. Good day. When I lived in Chicago, I used to walk around my neighborhood and ask people with a hand gesture of a joint to the mouth and the whispered question, "You smoke?" I'm not quite sure how it started, but it became a habit for about a year. I would do it to most the people I walked by. Eventually I was getting recognized for it. I walked by A guy with this goofy look on his face, but before I could get him, he you smoked me and started manically laughing. Sometimes people would be like, hell yeah, I smoke, and I'd be like, me too. Sometimes people would say no or ignore me and I'd like cover up and be like, oh yeah, me neither. Often I would pass by this restaurant and I'd wave or tap the window to get the attention of the host, who was like this dude with long hair. Almost every day or so I'd walked by this restaurant and you smoke this guy through the glass, and through gestures he'd always respond with some form of no, and I would point and mouth back, yes you do. One time I was in the passenger seat of a car, and while waiting at an intersection, we were in front of a restaurant that had seating facing the street. I caught eyes with a couple and gestured the you smoke a question as one does, and they were amused but were like no 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 ha ha and shaking their heads. I turned to my friend who was driving and bragged I just smoked some people in the window, and he was like, look back, there's some guy waving at you, and I looked back and the couple were also gesturing toward this other guy down the counter. He mouthed I smoke, and I was like, yeah, and gave an approving thumbs up. Probably the pinnacle use of this goof was when I asked this meter-maid guy if he smoked. Like one of the people checking cars for tickets. I was like, excuse me, do you smoke? And if we were casting this guy for a movie, we'd have to get Kevin Hart, because that's how I remember him. He was like, you asking me if I smoke weed? Yeah, what the fuck, man, you think I smoke weed? I work for the police. I was like, I dunno. Plenty of folks smoke nowadays. At this point, my friend I was walking with, who had a little more sense than me, was like pulling me away. But I could still hear the guy talking to himself aloud saying, like, this motherfucker asking if I smoke, who the fuck he think he is? Hell no. What's this fool talking about? Anyway, I did the you smoke gag for like a year, but later I moved away back to the suburbs and I tried to keep it going, but it was different. Yes, I still yell at golfers off the side of the road, and yes, I still sexually harass construction workers with gay comments. But EY. The days of the you smoke are past. When you are in an era, it's hard to know when it's happening in the moment. Maybe it's not too late. Maybe I can bring it back. Possibly somewhere where everyone smokes like a concert or geode collecting convention. It could be funny and edgy again. I feel bad I got away from it. I felt like I was doing something good for the world. Like a Johnny Appleseed of sorts, destigmatizing the scared burning of the bush one impression on one person at a time. Like, could weed be that bad for the world if it makes someone as goofy and docile as me? I dunno. Just saying. I once posted a video on my Facebook and offered anyone that shared it I'd give a 30-minute private lesson. This guy from our team shared it and I didn't quite understand why. He was a black belt already while I was a purple. One day, the guy asked me to give the lesson to his daughter. Now this 13 or 14-year-old girl was already like a meme. There was highlights of her beating up boys at tournaments in style that had millions of views. Anyway, her dad asked me to give her a lesson, and well, I've given lessons to a lot of kids before, but within the first minute or two of the lesson I got the impression that she was an impolite, negative little bitch. And I shut down and was just looking at the clock till I could wrap up the lesson. Some other kids her age also took lessons with me, and I connected with them, and those teens succeeded in becoming very successful in their adult competition phase. Unfortunately, the girl I gave up on had a different outcome. I lost track of her and her Dad for a bit, and the next time I saw her, when she was 16 or so, she had multiple tattoos. I kinda did a double take and didn't even realize it was her at first, because she was certainly too young to get tattoos. So, when she was 23, she got murdered in a domestic assault, leaving behind 3 kids. I just feel. No, I know. I failed at that exact point. I could have been an inspiring and positive influence, but I dropped the ball. When I gave up, I failed her and her family and all the other people I've claimed to be a mentor to. My lack of patience and understanding made for a bad moment, and I knew she was a troubled kid, but I lapsed on my better character and only gave her one chance, then gave up. It's kids like that we need to embrace the most and be forgiving with, and readily hit that reset button. I've at least thought back on her and told myself, next time I encounter a kid that in on the borderline like that, give them a few more free passes. They are still learning. I'm sure other adults, like teachers and such, shut down on them when they realize the kid is hard to handle. I'm so sorry I couldn't be better for her when I had the chance. Next time I get that feeling about a kid where I want to shut down and get the lesson over, remember my failure, remember the stakes, and realize these other kids I can do the most good for. Raising a world champion out of what was already a normal kid is truly awesome, but most those students would be just fine without a guide like me. Next time I have a kid I second guess, I will not fail her again. Maybe it's that kids of my generation and in the place I grew up, but my friend group was always a very important institution to me growing up. When I had friends die in our 20s, it really hurt, and I was traumatized, especially after finding my dude after a lethal overdose. Then my other great friend crooked from a predictable drug overdose. Think about who you take advice from. An inherently suspicious statement. But hear me out. Never mind. If I met Paul McCartney, I'd be really starstruck. I'm sure he's used to it by this point, but I'm just saying, as a fan, I would probably boil down his music and its effect on my life into the person himself. I didn't just fall in love with the Beatles. I fell in love with Matt Brockman. The Beatles will always bring me back to when I was 12. If I ever met Paul or Ringo or Dave Grohl, I would assume they embody these reflections of my Matt and those days. I wanted to learn jiu-jitsu at age 20 like the same way a 12-year-old wants a samurai sword or a Tommy gun. I lacked something. That was a cover-all. I'm better than you. Yeah, you're a millionaire, but I could whip your ass. You have a family and a job. I'm still better at jiu-jitsu. You threaten me with your alphaness, while I walk around with a samurai sword and I'm cooler and more dangerous than you. I know I don't have real power. What's best is if I meet the friends and families of like blue belt students who think their friend is a badass and they even are like not gonna do shit. Just saying. I want to open a restaurant. More like a dinner theater. It will be called Caligula's. The guests and other actors will all wear matching togas so no one will know who is an actor or a guest. Throughout the night, your host, Emperor Caligula, will at random abuse the actors while the guests will be unsure if he is just mistreating other real people. At the end of the evening, the Praetorian Guard, who were previously his muscle and possibly the waiters, will turn on him and assassinate Caligula. People will love it. It will be like medieval times but X-rated. I saw a bumper stick that said, "Don't do something you are great at for Free, but I'm like stuck doing jujitsu. After teaching for a decade with nothing to show, no money, no loyal students or friends, I've come to the conclusion that the greater public doesn't value jiu-jitsu. I've basically taught everyone for free. And most of the people that want to learn jiu-jitsu or put their kids in it are conservative, stingy, social Darwinist assholes that want to haggle over the sod of their membership. I'm gonna push forward as best I can though. I'm not going to allow this letdown of a world and the pricks in it to change me. I was born to do this. At least I wasn't born for anything else. I need to get my head around that not one values martial arts the way I do. But at this point it's like, why exist if I'm not doing what I want? So yeah, I'm pushing forward, despite having no self, universal, or existential worth. Leandro Lo's death was a cautionary tale which in itself may be his greatest contribution to the history of martial arts. And that is saying a lot, because Lo's jiu-jitsu was the stuff of legend. Originally a lightweight, he won black belt worlds at 5 weight classes. That's just not done in weight contingent sports. A passing virtuoso and a master of the mermaid sweep, Lo inspired a generation of grapplers. All of is overshadowed by Leandro Lo's murder. I wasn't there, but this is basically what happened. Lo was at a nightclub, and some guy took a bottle off Lo's party's table. They got in a scuffle, while which I've never heard the details of, we can assume. Leandro Lo digged the guy around and whipped his butt a bit. It was probably a merciful tussle by Lo because the guy was apparently able to walk away, but he came back with a gun and shot and killed Leandro. I had never met Leandro Lo personally. I had friends who had, and I'd seen him compete at a few big tournaments, but as part of the generation he inspired, word of his death shook me. When you do jiu-jitsu long enough, you learn that the ocean is deep. If you train for like a year, you can certainly out-wrestle and tap most random people. I'm not gonna lie, it gives you a sense of power. But there was my assistant coach at practice who would whip my ass without breaking a sweat. But the ocean is very deep. There were dudes out there that could tap my coach, and even those guys still looked up to Leandro Lo. I can state that I'm aware that jiu-jitsu is a sport, and having a black belt doesn't mean I have superpowers. But my ego gets the best sometimes. We still have to be careful out there. And the guy that shot Leandro Lo, he probably never stepped on the mat. These people that never trained and have been through getting beat up are dangerous in a way. They are so weak they are dangerous. And they can still buy and carry around guns. It should be obvious, but you can't throw your power around just because you are physically able. These petty little bitches with guns have no perspective on danger or consequences of their actions. But I digress. The world isn't safe, and jiu-jitsu can only do so much, and it has diminishing returns. Now, I'm a goof. When I was a little younger and drunker and more out there, I had a bad habit of challenging my friends to wrestle with me while we were like drunk or tripping or what have you. Almost all my close friends have at some point rolled around with me in the living room or front yard or kitchen. Well, long story short, my friends had this like party, a concert out in the country. It was a good time. We were getting pretty messed up all day. It was mostly friends of the bands playing and people we knew. Till late at night some local good Ole boys showed up. I don't really remember their arrival. I was drunk, but at some point I came coming across this big guy I didn't recognize. At one point he shoved me and said something like, "You think you are tough," which I swear I was not advertising in any way. I'm guessing one of my friends told him I was a tough jiu-jitsu guy or something. In fact, I had given an old gym shirt to a friend. 'Cause, you know, he lost his shirt, so maybe the guy saw that and said something, I still don't know for sure. Anyway, this dude was like, straight up just like shoving me around and talking shit, so I proposed we put down our beers and I'd wrestle him. Maybe my logic was I could squash this that way and not escalate. It was a bad idea, though I should have walked away. The so-called match went quick. I did a little duck under to his back, tripped him and choked him on the ground. It was seriously like a 30-second affair. He was cool about it though, it seemed. As I kinda remember, the rest of the time those guys were there, he kept trying to put his arm around me and singing my lords as a true badass. I was like, okay dude, we are cool but please stop. And then I lost track of him and his group had left. But he came back when I was asleep in a tent. I awoke to like a foot stooping on the tent, landing between my friend and I. Disoriented, I got out of the tent and some of my friends were still awake, chilling around a campfire a little bit away. Someone said it was that guy you choked and they were pointing toward the road where a bunch of cars were parked. Again, I don't know what I was thinking. At best I can say I was going to try to talk to him and say sorry and get him to leave for good, but in my heart I may have thought I'd whoop him and hurt him for real this time. Anyway, there was a car idling in the road and I walked up and leaned up to the passenger side and I started to say, dude, I thought we were good. And it was dark so I can't be sure what he pulled out of his glove box, but it was probably a gun. Jump scared. And running back I just yelled, go get out of here, and ran back to the campsite. For the rest of the night, I didn't know what to do. I was too drunk and far to drive home, and since he somehow knew where my tent was, my friend and I spent an uncomfortable night hiding in my Corolla. So yeah, that was a close call. It really scared me. So, it's looking like my dad has Parkinson's and it's totally heart-breaking. I know he wants more time with his grandkids and the family, but his time is rapidly running out. That's why it's sad. Since he doesn't want to die. I can tell he's scared about what's going to happen to him as the condition progresses. I don't want him to die. I'm not ready for it and I'm going to miss him. We are two different people, but we have a strong connection and friendship. I just wish there was some way I could help him face this terminal illness. Now I don't have kids of my own, but I dearly love my niece and nephew. Since they were born, their existence has been a deterrent for me in hard times to be better and not succumb to my depression. But truth be told, with both of my grandfathers having Parkinson's and now my dad having Parkinson's, whether I like it or not, I'm probably going to get Parkinson's. Part of me wants to say, fuck it. I'm just going to enjoy the time I have to the fullest and go out like a shooting star. But the kids love me so, as I love my dad. Thing is, maybe that's not the wrong way to go. By embracing my shelf life, I allow myself to realize it is time to seize the day. Maybe I won't say, drink myself into oblivion, but I have to take my chances now because it will be never sooner than I thought. I'm probably going to die younger than my mom, my sister and brother-in-law, and die sooner than the kids will be ready for. But I want it. To be clear, I'm content with my time and I did what I wanted with it. This isn't going to be an ego death type change in me. If nothing else, it could be ego enhancing. My shorter life could be freeing. I'm going to focus on the day and the now. I'm going to value my time and I'm going to give everything I have away. There is No reason for hoarding or greed when there may be no tomorrow.